Oh, hey, how you doing? I was just doing a little reading, keeping bees with a smile, and I found a really good topic that we could talk about today. So, of course, today we'll be talking about is what is the biggest enemy to honeybees in the wintertime? Like, what is the biggest killer of honeybees? And you might be surprised, it's actually not the cold itself. So, without further ado, let's break right into it. Good afternoon, beekeepers and bee enthusiasts. How you doing? It's another great day at the farm, and we are chilling out. Like I said, I've been reading a little Lazutin's Keeping Bees with a Smile, co-written by Dr. Leo Shrashkin. And this is a very good book on keeping bees naturally. And if you're looking to kind of look at the ways we keep bees, this is the book you really want to get into. Anyway, I was skimming through the pages, and I found an interesting topic that Lazutin actually speaks on in this book that I think is pretty interesting because we are in the wintertime right now, and a lot of beekeepers out there are like, okay, I got to keep my bees alive, Like, what do I got to do? And a lot of people might think off the bat that, okay, the best way to help my bees survive is just to keep them warm. Make sure the cold doesn't get in, make sure they're good to go. But actually, the biggest killer of honeybees in the wintertime, for the most part, is moisture. That's right. If you get too much moisture built up inside the hive, it can get really wet on the inside. And that, combined with cold air and whatnot, is not good for bees. And a lot of times we've found hives that where the colonies had died, a lot of times the walls were very damp and they were wet. And so, you could definitely tell if your honeybees have had a lot of moisture on the inside of the hive. And that is definitely a big killer. So it's going to be an interesting topic. And yeah, let's just get right into it. I'm trying to find a section. Okay, here we go. So Lazutin talks about how moisture becomes a problem for honeybees. So let's read what he says in the book right here about what exactly is occurring on the inside of the colony. So he says, based on the chemical reaction for the oxidation of honey, it's not hard to calculate that for every pound of honey consumed, approximately 11 ounces of water are produced, which results in an average total of 22 pounds for the entire winter. So every colony on average is generating about 22 pounds of water throughout the year, and they need a way for that water to get out. So if we think about it, when the bees consume honey, they take in air, and of course they consume the honey, but a byproduct they give is carbon dioxide and also water, okay? So they're putting moisture into the air. So the cold air is coming through that bottom entrance that we all have on our colonies, but it needs a way to escape, because if it doesn't have a way to escape, when the bees generate that moisture, it's going to build up on the inside of the hive. And once the bees get wet, it's pretty much done deal for them. And you can even, if you've ever had dead outs and you look on the inside of the colony, if you see a lot of dampness and wetness on the side of the walls, that's a very good sign that you had a moisture problem. And you can even look on the bottom of the hive. If you see a lot of dead bees and there's a lot of moisture, the dead bees are the ones that were in the cluster that they got wet and they tried to consume the water to get rid of it. And when they did, it made them sick and they fell to the bottom and they died. So yeah, moisture, it can be a big problem, and hives will generate a lot of water throughout the year. So they need a way to get rid of that water so they can survive. Okay, so we know that moisture in the air becomes a problem for bees after a certain amount of time. And if they don't have a way for that moisture to escape the hive, then you can start having issues, and bees can die off really quickly if they get wet on the inside of the hive. So what can we do to help this hot air get out? And basically what we do, and what Lazutin recommends in one of his options, is he says basically you want a bottom entrance and you want top ventilation holes in your colony. So you want a way for that cold air to get in through the bottom, the bees to consume it, and when they put out carbon dioxide and moisture, it has a way to escape the hive. So what we do on all of our laying hives is, of course, we have our entrances on the bottom, but pretty much on all of them, at the very top of the hive, on the sides, they always have ventilation holes. And in the past, we've done things where, let's say we were putting a pillowcase on something on top of our frames, and there's not enough room for the moisture to get out. we go to spring to that colony and the colony is dead, and we look on the inside, and one of the colonies, it was so wet on the inside, there was a lot of moisture, and what had occurred was there was just no way for that moisture to get out. So now we kind of leave an open area above the frames inside our Lance hives, and we have ventilation shafts on the sides too. And as long as you have a good entrance on the bottom and you have ventilation shafts at the top, that allows the cold air to go in, and then whenever the bees emit carbon dioxide and moisture, it has a way to escape the colony. Because remember, each colony is producing 22 pounds of water. So you want to have a way for that water to get out throughout the winter so your bees can make it. Now, Lizouten also talks about an option that some people have recommended of insulating colonies on the inside and basically allowing the moisture to be absorbed on the inside of the hive rather than escaping. And I would say, when it comes to that, there's a few options you can do. You could place a quilt above your hive. I've seen some people recommend putting some kind of cloth or material on the side walls, which could be difficult. And then some people even say putting insulation on the bottom to absorb some of that moisture. But, it's up to you. We personally think that the ventilation at the top is a really good way. And also what we do is in our empty space in our Lance hives, remember, if we have a Lance hive that has 14 frames, they're only wintering on about 7 frames in the wintertime. So there's an empty space on the inside of the Lance hive, and what we do is we take a bunch of straw and put it on the inside of there, and then they keep that straw until the springtime. So that's a pretty good method. But yeah, good ventilation on the top, and then also, of course, your entrance on the bottom. Your bees should be pretty good to go for moisture. If you have a hive and you had bees that didn't make it that winter, and you look in there and the walls are damp, and you got a lot of bees on the bottom board, then you need to look at that and say, okay, I probably had a moisture problem. So how can I work on my ventilation to ensure that my bees make it the next year? And, we've had that happen to us. We've lost bees to moisture before, and we had to fix a hive that didn't have proper ventilation. And we did that, and it worked just fine. So it's an interesting little topic. Again, yes, the cold is bad in the wintertime, but the moisture that can build up on the inside of a colony can be a big killer. And if you don't have good ventilation for your hive or a way for that moisture to get taken up on the inside of the hive, then you could have a big issue, and your bees could die out. So we hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, we'll see you soon. The puppy, the puppy.